Welcome back to Ballaholics, the show for those who simply can't get enough of basketball. I'm Sam. We got Ian once again on the show. What's
You guys
going on,
doing?
guys? Great to be back. And we have so much to talk about, Ian. It's been a while. I know it's been a minute, but since we were gone, the Dodgers won the World Series, beating the Rays. LeBron James, once again, he won the NBA championship. I believe we did a show after that, but we want to discuss for LeBron James who the biggest threat to
Mhm.
LeBron James is next year. And of course, we'll touch on some NFL as well. Me and Ian will give our takes as the best team in the NFL. And I'll tell you right now, it's not the Bills. But let's just start off with baseball, Ian.
All
What's your
right.
reaction on just the Dodgers winning the World Series?
All right. Well, first, obviously, good for the Dodgers. Happy for them. Clayton Kershaw deserved it. The fact that they have won the NL West, was it 8 years in a row? I want to say maybe even seven. Maybe it was seven. And they've been to the World Series multiple times in that span, losing every time. Clayton Kershaw has shown that he is previously to this year has been a kind of a liability in the postseason almost. This year, obviously not. He was considered maybe possibly World Series MVP. He did get 2 wins. Obviously, he didn't end up getting it. Corey Seager, deservedly so, gets it. But what upsets me is I wanted a Game 7. Obviously, everyone wants a Game 7. I wanted the Rays to win it again, as we talked about in one of our previous episodes. But what was upsetting, was at the 6th inning. Blake Snell dealing has a shutout, and they take him out. Kevin Cash takes out Blake Snell, one of the best pitchers in baseball. Probably pitched better in that game than he had all season. And that being said, taking a pitcher out on the third rotation around typically, analytically speaking, is a good idea. But that being said, you got to think about really the context here, right? So you have Mookie Betts up, who has been awful against left-handed pitchers. Blake Snell's a left-handed pitcher. And they put in Nick Anderson, who is a heavy fastball pitcher who has struggled. And Mookie is insane against fastball pitchers who are right-handed. Obviously, he lets up a hit. They give up the lead. So I understand maybe taking Blake Snell. I would let him pitch against Mookie and then maybe take him out. But it is what it is. If you're gonna take him out, don't put it in Nick Anderson. I feel like that's probably the worst relief pitcher to put in that scenario. But the Rays are a good team with a cheap contracts right now. So we'll see if they can continue the success. I'm interested to see if Blake Snell wants to continue to play with a team that has continually taking him out earlier than maybe he would like to be taken out, just because of the analytical aspect of the Rays approach.
And Ian, I remember seeing his reaction of getting taken out. He was not happy. And then if you looked at Mookie Betts, he was low-key just like so happy that he was getting taken out. He's like, okay, Blake Snell's out. He struck me out before.
Yeah.
He was really good. I believe he only let up 2 hits. He's like, now let me do the work. Let me put the work in because now Snell is out. I don't have to worry about that guy. And once again, just a horrific decision by Kevin Cash. And you saw it in Game 1. If you guys watched my radio show, I went on a huge rant because I did not understand Kevin Cash in Game 1. He had the opposite problem. He kept in Tyler Glasnow for too long. But this time, he did the exact opposite and took out, obviously, it's inexcusable. I think the first thing that the Rays have to do is take a good look and consider firing Kevin Cash. Now, I was rooting for the Rays as well. They beat the Yankees, so it's always cool knowing that you lost to the team that won the World Series. That obviously did not happen. But I'm happy for Clayton Kershaw. And I think Clayton Kershaw, I always thought that he's gotten too much hate because he chokes in the past. I get sometimes he has. But against the Astros in 2017 in the World Series, the people were yelling at him because he was choking. Meanwhile, what's his name? Jose Altuve and the entire Astros team had that cheating scandal. So they knew his pitches before he was even pitching. So you can't use that against Clayton Kershaw. I'm so happy for Clayton Kershaw, though. When you saw the Dodgers win that last game, you saw him just run out of the bullpen and just joy because now there's like a huge cloud that was hovering over Clayton Kershaw because people say that he's the best player in the regular season and he doesn't show up in the playoffs. Now that pressure is lifted. The pressure is lifted off of him, and now they can actually start enjoying themselves. I think this World Series for the Dodgers was going to be the hardest to win. Now that they have all won a World Series, I think now in the future it's going to be a lot easier for them to win games because that pressure's alleviated. So I'm so happy for the Dodgers. It would have been nice to see the Rays win. They were underdogs. They have one of the lowest contracts, like in terms of money, in the MLB. So I'm excited to see the Rays as a young team continue to be good, not better than my Yankees, and I'm happy for the Dodgers as well.
Well, the Rays are better than the Yankees, as we saw this postseason.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter though. So yeah, going forward, the Dodgers obviously Clayton Kershaw, he's getting up there in age, has declined a bit. He played well in the postseason, especially more so the World Series, I guess. But if you look at his production, has dipped a bit. But now they have Mookie for 12 years, so it's going to be interesting how they go forward with one of the higher payrolls in baseball, and especially one of those heavy contracts being Kershaw, who isn't a liability by any means, but going forward, there's a possibility that he is just not nearly worth the contract he has received. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. I am a bit upset that both LA teams won, simply because it's like people in LA are acting like they're like in Minneapolis or Buffalo or Cleveland. Like, no, you have 8 different teams. Like, you don't have this misery that other cities do. I don't get it.
You have the spotlight, you have the sunlight.
It is what it is.
You got the beach. There's no
like they're acting like they're
entitled.
They felt bad for themselves for like 2 minutes when the Lakers didn't make the playoffs. So, but it is what it is.
I know. If you guys want someone to feel bad for New York, feel bad for our teams, feel bad for my beloved suffering Knicks. Ian Mills, I know your Bills are good this year, but in the past they've been tough. So feel bad for the New York. We've had tough sports. We have the Knicks, the Yankees, which is a team I like, got eliminated, and then the Jets, the Giants. We're not talking about NFL. We're not doing it.
Yeah, the Mets too. Yeah.
Not right now. Mets. I know Steve Cohen officially bought the Mets. That's good. He's willing to spend more money on players, hopefully. So
we'll see.
Yeah, so that maybe the rivalry would be better with the Yankees. It won't be. The Yankees will be the best team. They'll beat the Rays. I know the Yankees.
Well, the Blue Jays are winning the AL East.
Garrett Cole, we'll see.
Hey, Blue Jays are winning the AL East next year.
Oh, stop.
Thanks.
You get past the Rays first.
Can't wait.
Rose Arena.
Bring them on. Yeah, Randy's insane.
Yeah, good luck with that. Let's get good luck with that. On another note, let's talk about the NBA. Obviously, LeBron James won his 4th NBA championship, trying to get closer to MJ. Ian Mills, in order for LeBron James to win the two-peat, which team do you believe poses the biggest threat to LeBron AD?
Well, I mean, I think it's certainly a team in the West, regardless. I mean, we could probably talked about, Giannis getting help or the Heat. I don't think the Heat are gonna improve this year. I mean, with Jimmy Butler and Goran Dragic getting older, I think that's this was probably their year of being like, we're insane, whatever. It is what it is. Maybe I'm being
no way. No.
But my point is, I think it'll be a team in the West because just how sacked it is. I think if the Clippers can move Paul George, get some assets in return, and maybe just play better in the postseason, I think they're a big threat. But honestly, the Warriors are the biggest threat right now. Listen, they are. Last year, obviously, with Clay and Steph Curry out, they were awful. I mean, but now they have a 2nd overall pick, which they very well could trade. Maybe package Draymond, get rid of his contract with another superstar, a 3rd superstar to go with Steph, Clay, and then you still have Andrew Wiggins' contract that he played pretty well on a really bad team last year. So again, another team, a bad team, might want to take on that contract that is willing to take on the money in order to just maybe see if he's still worth the number 1 overall pick. So for me, I mean, you still have Steve Kerr as your coach. I think Steph Curry off a year of rest, Klay Thompson off mostly a year of rest. I mean, you're going to see probably them being just kind of playing like the ferocity they did before they had KD. Not that they were bad with KD. Obviously, they were amazing, but they were even potentially better without him, at least from a regular season perspective. So I think for me, maybe a sleeper is the Warriors, just because I think most teams kind of laid down to the Lakers this year, didn't really give them too much of a fight. So, and I don't expect that to change much without a new team kind of throwing their hat in the ring.
First, I need to correct you because you made an egregious mistake saying the Miami Heat aren't going to contend anymore because they're too old. Yeah, Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson and Ben Adebayo, they're too old. And Jimmy Butler, you don't think he has a couple of years left? And also, you don't think that they have a max spot in next year to law a big-time superstar free agent? Giannis Antetokounmpo, maybe. Knock on wood, I hope he doesn't because I hope he goes to the Knicks because I'm a beloved suffering Knicks fan. Maybe. But the Heat are not going anywhere. But they are not my team at the same time. They're
They
not
need
at
to.
the same time.
I'd say they need to add another spot to get back to the finals this year. That's what I'm saying.
Well, yes, and that's where I was going with it because I agree
Okay,
with
yeah,
you.
yeah.
But the Brooklyn Nets, obviously, Kyrie and Kevin Durant. Time out. Can I just tell you guys, because I know we're all happy about LeBron James and AD winning the championship. We love that LeBron has 4. I'm going to name some players right now that were not at all in the bubble. Ready for this, Ian? It's a crazy list of superstars that did not play in the playoffs. We got Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. LeBron didn't play Kawhi Leonard or Paul George. So you see all these superstars that LeBron James didn't have to play to win the NBA championship. If you think that he's not going to have to play those players at all next year, you got to be drug tested or something, because it's ridiculous how many superstars LeBron James didn't have to play in order to win. The Brooklyn Nets are going to be a contender in the East, no doubt, with the Miami Heat. I also think that the Bucks are going to fight back with Giannis. But even in the West, you have the emerging Denver Nuggets and Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. Put some respect on those people's names. And then, of course, the two big teams, in my opinion, I'm going back and forth. Ian, you said the Golden State Warriors with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. I'd probably say them too. But because you said the Warriors, I'll cover the Clippers for a sec. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, Lou Williams, Patrick Beverley, that Los Angeles Clippers squad is a team to be reckoned with. And maybe if, in terms of standings, the Lakers are the best team, I still might say the Lakers are better than the Clippers. In terms of strictly matchup-wise, Kawhi Leonard is LeBron James' kryptonite. Kawhi Leonard, in those games in the regular season, the Clippers won 2-1, I believe. Christmas Day, Kawhi Leonard put the clamps on LeBron. The first game of the regular season last year, Kawhi Leonard put the clamps on LeBron James. Then you got Paul George. You have Lou Williams, Sweet Lou. You got Patrick Beverley. You have that team, Marcus Morris. This team didn't take their opponents seriously this season because they're always resting. Kawhi Leonard's always resting. They're always resting. They didn't really care that much. This Clippers team is not playing around next season, Ian. They're going to try hard. They're going to play to their potential because they did not do so last season. I expect them to give LeBron James really lots of trouble next year in the postseason. I still say the Warriors are the biggest threat. I think the Nets are an honorable mention, but the Los Angeles Clippers are a major threat to LeBron James repeating.
Yeah, I like the hiring of Ty Lue. I think Doc Rivers. I think in basketball, you can't have a coach for too long unless you're like a Greg Popovich type. Sometimes it just gets stale. So I like the hiring of Ty Lue. I think the Clippers certainly have at least an edge to them. And I think they do have to remake their roster a little bit. I think they can't come in with the same exact team expecting better results. That being said, I do think, Kawhi with another chip on his shoulder, I'm willing to bet that he's ready to be competitive with LeBron.
Exactly, and that's the thing. I think that Kawhi Leonard, he doesn't fare great as being the guy that beat. He fares better when he's the underdog. People aren't really talking about him, and he has everyone right where he wants us, because everyone's talking about LeBron James is going to be the favorite, or Golden State, or perhaps Brooklyn, and people aren't talking about Kawhi Leonard in the Los Angeles Clippers. This is happening over and over again. This is history. History repeats itself. And like you said, I like Tyronn Lue as the head coach hire. I'm not saying that he's a better mind than Doc Rivers in terms of coaching schemes, but I would say that team lacked accountability. I don't think Doc Rivers held Paul George and Kawhi Leonard accountable. There were reports that Kawhi Leonard would be late to practice constantly, and Paul George was also entitled, and that really angered the other players on the Clippers like Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell and those role players. So I do believe they need a new face. They need a new leader, a vocal leader. I believe Tyronn Lue will be that vocal leader.
Yeah, also Paul George is or Doc Rivers' daughter and Paul George will no longer be in the same city, which is probably good for that relationship. So we like to see that. But
what's going on there? What's her
Paul George dated Doc Rivers' daughter and cheated on her with a stripper. You didn't know that?
Really? I had no idea. When was this?
This was 2 years ago, I think, something like that.
Wow, maybe that's
before he was on the Clippers.
Maybe Doc Rivers was like, I can't discipline this guy. I can't go after him because he has this on me.
Yeah.
Well, that could be maybe that's why I got fired. You never know, Ian. You never know.
But I don't know how they worked together for whatever, a year or whatever.
That's insane. That makes no sense, I guess. Yeah. I mean, we hear reports all the time about players not getting along. Obviously, Kobe and Shaq had their beef, and Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert had some beef earlier in the past couple months. But that's taking it too much. That's going over the line, I think. I don't know how I would do that. I don't know how you would do that. But let's go on. Let's stop talking about the NBA. Let's stop talking about Doc Rivers and Paul George and that affair going on over there. Let's talk about the NFL. Ian, I want to hear your number one team in the NFL right now at this very moment.
The NFL right now, I think in terms of leagues, is probably the most filled with parity, right? And in the NFL, you can't simply be insane on offense. We see that with the Seahawks almost every year. They are an incredibly talented offense. Right now, obviously, with Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and Russell Wilson. But what happens? They lose to what I think is kind of an average team in the Cardinals, simply because they can't stop anyone. And because of a few small turnovers by Russell Wilson, obviously that cost them the game, right? So there's really no margin for error on it with a team like the Seahawks. That being said, I want to look at a complete team, a team that has a really good offense, but also has a defense that can at least, stop someone, right? So, and then obviously there's three aspects of the game, including, special teams, kicking, returning, whatever. I think the team that encapsulates this the best, and this is a pretty easy pick. This isn't, I'm not going to blow anyone out of the water with this, but the Chiefs. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs, yeah, exactly. No, the Kansas City Chiefs obviously winning the Super Bowl last year, lost to the Raiders, so one loss this year. But, losses happen. You're not going to go undefeated. It's only happened once. There's only one undefeated team left in the NFL, being the Steelers, who, have played a relatively easy schedule outside of the Titans. So, I think just if you look at the Chiefs as a whole, obviously adding Le'Veon Bell, I don't think does as much as maybe people are thinking. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the real deal. You got Tyreek Hill. Sammy Watkins is hurt right now. When he comes back, I'm sure he'll, fit right back into that receiving core. And then their defense, it's not great, but it's at least average. It's far better than the Seahawks. And I think it's one of those defenses that kind of goes under the radar, and people think it's bad simply because of how good the Chiefs offense is, which it is really good. I think if Pat Mahomes, doesn't get hurt, and I hope to God he doesn't get hurt this season. He did last year a little bit. I think if the Chiefs are healthy throughout the rest of the season, I think they will have the best record in football. I think in the NFC it's kind of filled with a bunch of teams that are beating up on each other. So, a bunch of teams that will probably end with like 12-4 records just because they lose to one another. So, for me, I think the Chiefs right now are certainly the best team in football.
Yeah, if you go by the regular season metric, it has to be the Pittsburgh Steelers because obviously this did the most, the last undefeated team in the NFL. I'm not going to do that. You can also go by the talent metric and say that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the best team because they have the most talent. Tom Brady, then their running backs are stacked. They got LaShawn McCoy, obviously, who hasn't been doing too much, but we all know who he is. But Leonard Fournette also, you look at the tight ends, Rob Gronkowski.
Whoa. Don't Ronald Jones is the best running back on the roster, and it's not close. Put some respect on my boy Ronald Jones' name.
Ronald Jones. I'll give Ronald Jones too. Not bad. I'm just naming everyone. I'm going down the line. I'm talking about Mike Evans. I'm talking about Marcus Goodwin. Bro, they signed Antonio Brown, who I'm not saying, look, I know we don't like him. I know he has those issues. He has those temporary issues, Ian. But listen, in terms of talent with wide receiver core, he's one of the most talented, if not the most talented wide receiver right now in the NFL. So I think you got to put more respect on Antonio Brown's name because of his talent. But look, I have to say a best team in the NFL right now, I'm going to agree with you, Ian. I want to hear you first because you want to say something back to me. I know I got you angry. I invigorated you.
Well, first off, you tell me to put respect on Antonio Brown's name, who hasn't played in a year and a half, and whatever. He's still incredibly talented. Obviously, he hasn't seen the field in a year and a half, so we'll see how he ends up actually playing. But you got to put respect on Chris Godwin's name. You called him Marquise Goodwin. You're
Chris Godwin.
You're giving disrespect to the Bucs. He's probably their second best receiver, one of the best receivers in the NFL, at least statistically speaking from last year. But I think the Bucs are a good team. I think they have a really good defense. I think really it's going to end up being how good is Tom Brady still, and he has shown that he is an incredible football player. So he still throws the ball extraordinarily accurately. One of the better players. He looks like he's playing from 10 years ago. So I think going down the line, the Bucs had a couple losses early on in the season because Tom Brady wasn't looking like himself. So we'll see, if this Antonio Brown experiment actually works out because, there is a chance he does ruffle some feathers in that locker room and ruin some chemistry. In that case, they would just cut him almost immediately and the experiment would be over. But, I think they're a very good team. I think they're better than their record shows. But still, I think the Chiefs are a superior team, but I don't think they're blowing anyone out of the water in that regard.
Here's what I'll say in terms of the Antonio Brown experiment. I think if it's going to work somewhere, he has to have the respect. He has to be able to respect the QB. He couldn't do that in Pittsburgh quite with Ben Roethlisberger. I think he will do it with Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. I think the respect will work. Now, again, I think the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. Like yourself, I agree with you. I think they have one of the best regular season records right now, and they're also playoff tested. We saw them last year win the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes is sensational, absolutely sensational. Probably the best QB right now in recent history. The best QB right now, undoubtedly. And he's making his way up to being one of the greatest QBs to ever play the game of football with his non-conventional style of play. So I think they're the best. They have Tyreek Hill. They have a complete team, Travis Kelce. I think the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL.
Sleeper team real quick.
The Bills.
Buffalo
Bills. I don't want to hear the Bills.
No, they're not the best team, but they're sleeper. They'll get into the playoffs.
Sleeper team, the Giants, Jets.
Yeah. Giants are actually a game out of the playoffs right now, right? Game out of the division lead, which just shows how bad the division is. But
are they actually?
Yeah, the NFC East is led by the Eagles at 2-4-1, and then the Giants are 1-5, 1-6.
It's possible.
Yeah, so
they're possible
in it. Yeah, I mean, they're still technically all the teams in the NFC East are still alive. Just I don't think I think the Cowboys are last place, like a game and a half out right now. So it's not, it's tightly contested, but with a bunch of really bad teams. So.
Yeah, I mean, as the great Justin Bieber once said, never say never. So maybe the Giants will make it in the playoffs. Maybe they'll win the Super Bowl. Who knows, man? Maybe they'll beat the Bucks. They'll beat the Eagles. The Eagles obviously. Maybe they'll beat the Bucks. They'll beat all those great teams. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Appreciate you guys joining us and watching this episode. I think we both agree. Chiefs, best team in the NFL. Bills, not so much.
No, Bills are sleeper. Don't sleep on the Bills. Hey, Bills are winning 30-17 this week against the Patriots. Book it. Put your money on.
They haven't been playing well. They've been slacking
on it.
They've been slacking. Cam Newton's been slacking. So we'll see. We'll see if the Patriots get better. We'll see.
Josh Allen 5-touchdown game this week. Calling it right now.
All right, guys. You hear that? Place your bets on Josh Allen. 5 touchdowns this week. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us and have a nice day.
You guys.
Peace.